Alrighty. Okay, welcome everyone. I appreciate everyone joining us today at 4 p.m. Eastern time on this wonderful Wednesday. So this topic came about primarily because, you know, we all keep talking about AI. I see everyone's posts and, all the different communities talking about how cool, check all these amazing things out. But a lot of times you may not notice, or you may notice that a lot of people are just regurgitating the same information and they're posting things out just to kind of look better in the community as a whole. And it's not, they don't actually know how to use a lot of these tools. So a lot of them just, you ask them some questions, like, okay, how are you using it? Like, oh, they won't be able to answer those questions. So that's why I'm very much focused on always finding people who are actually using AI and actually implementing it in their business, knowing how to use it, and not just the marketing side of things, but the actual implementation side of things. This is what we've been focused on for a while now. Even the AI Unleashed event that we did was all about implementation because you go to a lot of these events, and a lot of the events are people on the stages are great at presenting, but when it comes to actual implementation, that's not their actual skill sets or teams that handle a lot of that stuff. So that's why we want to bring on board those who are actually in the trenches doing it themselves because they can give you the actual raw value and the data behind it. So let me get my sharing going here. We'll give a quick introduction to everyone. Alrighty. You see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So the topic is live system and workflow breakdowns. In essence, what we're trying to do is each of the guests here, David, Jeremy, and Quinton, they all have specific topics and specific subject matter expertise that we're gonna be talking about. And we want each of them to kind of go into how are they actually using it. So, David, you're gonna be going over anti-gravity. I know nothing about anti-gravity. You threw it out there in a conversation, like, that's cool. I don't know anything about it. I know about all the other stuff around it. So I don't even know where it plays in the whole playground as a whole. So that's why I'm very curious about seeing how you're leveraging anti-gravity in action, so I can learn from this as well. We have Quinton, who is into OpenClaw, and he's using it day in, day out with his sales team. And I want to see how you're actually leveraging it, how you implemented it, because again, we see everyone talk about OpenClaw. It's a next great thing, the best thing in the world. But what are the use cases that's actually solving problems for you? A lot of people are trying to jump into OpenClaw without having actual use cases. Like they're going to get it, great. Now what are you going to do with it? So have a use case where it's actually beneficial for you. And Jeremy, we're going to go over a bunch of cool stuff that you've been doing ever since after AI Unleashed and how you've been implementing it. And I have a quick summary of your different topics here of each of them. Let me go. So AI Unleashed, like I keep mentioning, is the intensive that we held in February. We're doing another one coming up in September of this year. If you're interested, reach out to me. We'll talk more about it later. But in terms of David, you want to kind of give a rundown what you're going to be talking about before we get into it? So we're going to introduce each person and their topic, and then David, you can kind of get started.
Yeah. So I think this was like the list of options because I 15 minutes
So what are you going to be covering? That's the question.
yeah. So basically I'm going to be showing y'all how I've been using Google Anti-Gravity and essentially how to create custom AI solutions uh essentially to work around potential software limitations that you could be running into. Let's see what else is on here. Oh yeah, and also how to I know a lot of these tools require investment up front or, you got to buy credits, stuff like that. I don't know a single business owner that doesn't actually have access to this tool. And I'll share in my presentation, but essentially how to get started and be profitable, like without any investment at all, because you should already have access to the stuff. And then also personally, like kind of how I got into this and how I changed the way I was working previously, both working with contractors and team, having an implementation in my company myself, employing implementers, integrators, all that type of stuff, to now asking AI not just questions, but like to do the actual work and challenging it to be not just a thinking partner, but a working partner. And anything y'all can think to ask as well. Happy to cover. So
All right. We have Quinton.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to be talking today about OpenClaw. I'm just kind of giving a very high level view of what it is. If you want to know more, shameless plug, me and David did a podcast about this, Sass with Das, be live soon. But today I'm going to be basically sharing two environments that you can set OpenClaw up in. One is a VPS, so it's like a cloud environment where you don't have to have any kind of physical machine. You don't have to have a Mac Mini. You can have any kind of computer, but it's all going to run in the cloud. And then I'm also going to share some of the use cases of the one that is running on my Mac Mini that is running locally, and I'll share kind of some of the pros and cons of both and what the limitations are with one or the other. And then as well as just use cases on both of those setups so that you can get a real good sense of what it means, practically to set it up on a VPS versus setting it up on a local machine. So that is what I'll be covering. And yeah, can't wait.
Awesome. And Jeremy, I have to plug in your little video, your fireman.
Did you
So
call 911? I'm Jeremy,
I don't know,
your
do you hear it?
AI first responder, and I've been dispatched to help bring life back to your business and bridge that gap between
I love
AI
That's
it.
funny.
confusion and new sales. I didn't exist just a month ago, but after AI unleashed, here I am. Now let me introduce to the real me.
I love it. That's
Right.
awesome.
So there's the clone me, obviously, the AI version, which does about 30 times the amount of work I was doing previously, and then real me is real me, Jeremy. So I'm going to go over a little bit of my history through web over the last 25 years from HTML to now where we're at. And I feel like that ties into the evolution of a entrepreneur in development and how you can leverage your history, your skills, and tools that are at your forefront right now to become successful and make your business a little more efficient and more profitable, and implement it for your customers and your clients, and just getting after it. And the term we like to use back then was the GSD, getting stuff done. Um, so I just like results without excuses. And that's what I'm going to try and teach people how I do that, my techniques, and how I utilize all the tools and leverage them to help each other for less credits and different stuff. So it should be pretty fun.
Awesome. All right, so that's a quick intro for everyone. David, you want to get us started and kind of give us a rundown of what is anti-gravity? Because even I was asking you questions of where does anti-gravity play in the playgrounds with all the various tools, and how are you leveraging it in your day-to-day? That's what I'm curious about. And like what I want to take away from this conversation is like, wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe I should be implementing it as well. So that's why I want to kind of get away from this conversation.
yeah, for sure. Appreciate that. So let me pull up. I do have some slides. One sec. If I can find them.
And anyone has questions, just drop them on the side. We're gonna answer them along the way. Don't worry.
All right.
Quentin, have you played with anti-gravity?
Yeah, has anybody
Uh,
opened anti-gravity or know what it is?
I didn't even really know much about it until you talked about it. Then I did my research around it. But in terms of actual implementation or usage, I have not.
Okay,
Past week, I've
cool.
been digging into it.
I think I'm sharing it correctly.
Yep, yep, there it is.
One second. All right, here we go. Sorry, I had my little cheat notes. All right, guys. So I'm going to be going over Google anti-gravity and kind of a little bit of background as to like what led me to here. I'm not a developer like in background or history or any of that stuff. I had said previously that I've employed, go high level developers, work with many contractors, different companies like that. But in terms of coding, you are looking at probably the least experienced person here. And if I can do it, I feel like anybody can. Okay, so if you feel like some people are talking Chinese or like very advanced, much more advanced than you, there are no limitations now with what you're able to do and learn at a rapid pace, that there's no excuse for you not to be able to do this yourself. Even if you're like many of the CEOs I talk to, you just want to learn it real quick, okay, and then hand it off, task it to the team. It's just now it's so much fun to like get in there and do it yourself as well. So a lot has changed since we first uh, initially started doing implementations. Okay, let me see where this goes. Okay, a little bit of background about me. Sorry for the zoomed in scary picture right there. Founder of Convert. I have background again, business sales, marketing. Originally started marketing agency a few years back. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, like many people, you know. And came through when Go High Level was like just popping, did the whole mini chat thing, got a lot of traction when other agencies started asking me for help, and that all the way through to launching an implementation company and launching multiple masterminds, doing 20 plus live events and sponsoring some of the biggest events in our industry, like Traffic and Conversions Summit. And exited my last mastermind this last year. So, um, and across the way, helped thousands of agency owners and done like 20 plus events, I think. And that's actually how me and Fur recently connected when he was starting to plan his event, which I'm very happy to do because he's filling in a huge gap. There's not a whole lot of people that are doing quality events like that, specifically surrounded by this, especially like implementation and like walking away with actual like value. Most of it is like, oh, hoorah. Trust me, I know I sold them. So, okay, where I'm focused now, AI coding, agentic systems, and then building custom solutions, essentially like as they arise around platform limitations, not letting anything hold me back. Okay. And then turning those like what would be constraints normally previously into recurring revenue. Let me see. Okay. So my old belief, and we'll jump into anti-gravity here in a second. I'll just run y'all through my whole chat. My old belief, essentially, actually, so I go back, I think me and Quinton know each other pretty. Your product has always been more advanced than mine. You know what I'm saying? I actually used to like run away, refer out to people like him, like implementation work that would require a higher level like integrations, you know, through the API and things like that. I just didn't touch it. Not that I charged any less. I just wouldn't touch those specific type of things because I knew my limitations, right? And this was a few years back, you know. So now at that time, my time as a CEO, was running my business with my team, was spent much better on strategy, sales, and leadership, not essentially building. I ran into a similar problem. Let me see real quick. Okay. Yeah, I ran into a similar problem more recently that really motivated me to figure this stuff out recently because I was working with a specific development team and things weren't like as I wanted. And I felt that I was so close to like discovering and unlocking this opportunity. And I had been introduced to these coding tools by a good friend of mine. He was a member of my mastermind, who client of mine, and um, basically he had handed me a tool like Cursor, literally Cursor. It's an IDE, um, and integrated development environment is what that stands for. Essentially, if you know what VS Code is, it's what a lot of people like plug tools like Claude Code or Open Code into to get the full like little dashboard view. And we'll go into that in a second here. But I had popped that open immediately, like got disinterested in my I'm too cool for development type of stuff. Train of thought, and immediately put on the shelf. Picked up Manus and Lovable. This was last year around February. Okay. And I tried to outwork my N8N development team. So that was like the whole inspiration on this. And as I was trying to do that, I learned that Manus was not there yet. I think it's better now, but um, running into problems with tools like MCP, which is essentially like the USB of AI agents connecting to other things, and would run into these issues, and it wasn't able to exactly do what I want. So then I was like, well, hey, what the hell? Why don't I try that thing that his name's George? I'll try the thing that George gave me, see if that can do it. Like maybe I can code or figure something out. I had no nothing. I started with nothing. Okay. And then I go back to George. I'm like, hey, how do I do this? He goes, ask the AI. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, you're not gonna help me? Like, you're just gonna give it, you're gonna get like, normally with Go High Level, you would sit on a call and like help each other out. But now you have AI, so us busy entrepreneurs, CEOs of companies, like we don't need to bug our buddy. We can just bug AI the whole day. Now, obviously, there's some limitations in that, but like now it's getting so good. And if you can practice model agnosticism and make sure you're checking the answer and not getting the wrong one, okay, or diving down the wrong rabbit hole, then you'll get a lot of places very far. So anyway, so that's where I got into here, and essentially what I unlocked was every limitation became an opportunity. Okay, whatever I was thinking before, can't do that and go high level. uh, Either lost the deal or handed it off, right? Frustrated client, nothing to move forward with. Now it's like, how do we build around that? You know what I mean? So one of my first questions is like, oh, can the API do that or whatever? Um, if it doesn't, that's like, oh, it's okay. All right, we'll figure a way around it. You know what I mean? So anyway, the result here, and we'll go over quickly that is stick your clients, differentiating yourselves, and new ways to build recurring revenue. Okay, so right, we're gonna hop in now, but before we go in, essentially, I built out a dashboard just specifically for this presentation, this demo. Um, but I didn't do it the regular old way. I like to challenge myself. Done this a bunch of times now. So I put a couple rules to the game. I don't want to touch anything and go high level. Okay, so that was rule number one. I love go high level, use it all the time, and I know that this audience is probably like very big on go high level. So, um, even like submitting contacts or touching the data import, anything like that. So yeah, so that was number one. Build with little tools, no extra cost. Like I said, y'all could do what I just did for free. Um, and actually, we'll probably do that first. And then, uh, didn't use any team. AI does all the lifting. So delegation to AI only. All right. And I try to do as little work as possible when I'm doing this type of things. Okay. Um, and then create a sellable solution. All right. Now I did it with mock data. Okay, but the real thing that I wanted to paint y'all the picture of was that you could talk to a client, either pre-sell them or close them on this solution. Okay. Start building with the free account and get far enough to, if you haven't swiped their credit card, for sure to charge a couple $1,000s to complete the solution. You're just giving them a taste. And if I have time, I'll go more over this later, but that taste wettens their palate to more. So, I mean, let me see here. What's next? Okay, yeah. So just a custom dashboard on top of high level. We all know the dashboard and go high level, not ideal, little whatever. Um, and that was one of the first things that uh I, really wanted to start like replacing. So let me pull up. Is it this window that I'm sharing?
Sharing a chat window.
It's the whole browser you're sharing.
Okay, yeah. There we go. Okay, so to download this thing, Google Anti-Gravity, I realized during this presentation or preparing for it, that you it's only for Mac OS X. I didn't know that. And then right here, change log is, as you can see, this stuff moves a mile a minute. So it's literally launch date of November 18th, Thanksgiving, basically. Okay. And that's why I think Furry asked me like, never heard of it or like, I haven't messed with it. It came out around Thanksgiving. So like I had a little bit of time to like play with it, you know? So, okay. Let me unshare and then reshare.
That is available for Windows too, though, David. I have
It
seen
it
that.
is okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. I only learn what I need to learn. So I know it works for Mac. All right. Let me just pull this up 1 second. And
Just for those of us that don't know where this fits, is this kind of like a Claude code? Is it like what family is it in? Just so I know like relevance and context where Google Gravity, anti-gravity
yeah,
fits.
yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so this is going to fit in alongside with code and that family of like tools that you use.
Okay.
The reason I like this one as opposed to others is because it's from Google, and I just, prediction, I just feel like they're just gonna win this game eventually. And they just have I mean, it's just I like Google, trust it. It seems like everything will go in that direction. Also, like I can use all the Claude models inside of there. GPTs aren't available, but you can use all of Claude's not all of them, sorry, the main ones, Opus and Sonnet primarily. Okay, am I sharing now?
Yep.
Okay, guys. So right here, essentially, just built a essentially a mock dashboard of, and this is the type of solution that um, you can work in on your way to building like a full end-to-end wrapper if you want. Okay. Now I was playing inside my rules, remember? So like, I hit a certain point, but essentially with $0 in spend, we were able to get this like fully connected and everything like that. Even down to putting some stuff in for the demo. Let me pull up.
So zero spend, what does that mean? Like how much does
So
anti-gravity cost?
yeah, so on tokens, I'm talking in terms of tokens and um like just any additional costs. So right here, if we go in behind my screen, 1 sec. So right here, we get a little dashboard view. And as you can see, I exhausted group one is left at 0%. Uh, Gemini 3 Flash, like the main workhorse here, I have like a little bit left there. And then group three. And I used because I have a couple of accounts that have access to this. All of y'all have access to this. Y'all can download it right now, log into your Google account. You'll have access on your normal Google, but then if you have workspace access, I think you automatically have like a pro account on this. So you automatically have access to this. And if you want to look at your quota, it's anti-gravity quota monitor. You just download it under extensions. Let's see, type in quota, and anti-gravity cockpit is another one, but anti-gravity quota, and this will give you kind of like you can keep track of it. If you like it, awesome. This is kind of like the whole purpose of this. If you find it profitable and you're able to create a solution for your client like this, then you can, what I'm saying? Then you can buy more, you can upgrade your account to the Ultra account with Google, and that unlocks a higher tier essentially not quite unlimited, but like I don't know anybody that's ever ran out. Okay. In terms of models, um, and this little notification just means I ran out, like I was showing y'all. Um, in terms of models, you got 3.1 Pro low, 3.1 high, Pro high, which is the low reasoning and high reasoning. Gemini 3 Flash, 3.1 Flash will come out soon here whenever it's released. I was hoping to be released before this session, but wasn't quite. And then Sonnet 4.6 Thinking and Opus 4.6 Thinking. These are all part of the same group. This is a local GPT, that OSS model or whatever. Um, I don't ever use that one. I just noticed in practice that was the least effective. Okay. Now, I spent a lot of time in Cursor, recently retired Cursor in favor of anti-gravity. The way anti-gravity is set up is essentially it is like an agent first platform. So the way they designed it, let me pull that up. The way they designed it, one second. The way they designed it is kind of if you've ever heard of Claude Code's dangerously skip permissions setting, essentially that's kind of what this all this stuff is. So that's why they have a little dangerous thing or whatever. Always proceed, request review every time, and there's a couple of other places like that that you can set up similar like stopping points. Enough so that actually you need to tell it when you want to plan stuff. So like you have to say and put cues like take no action, you know what I'm saying? Or even so much as to turn you can turn off, there's a little button here that you can turn off specific things in there. Um, Along with that, if I don't pull up anything I shouldn't, but okay. Along with that, you have a host of MCPs in here, and you got things like Stripe, um, Supabase, of course, all up in here, PayPal, everything, GitHub. Um, my favorite Neon actually is a very cool replacement alternative to Supabase that I don't see getting into much attention. But if you do a lot of like testing or side projects or little side quests where like, you're not planning on selling it, you just want to test some stuff out, and say you got like 10 of those, Supabase tops out at like 2 test projects or whatever, and then it's like 10 per after that. So if you got 20 in there, it's like $200, you know? So Neon, uh, if you use Neon, it's similar type of product, okay? But use Neon plus, sorry, Neon allows for up to 100 projects, okay? Database projects. And if you pair that with something called Vercel Blobs, which is super like Vercel is Vercel, you know what I'm saying? Like that's everybody uses that. Every big company you've ever heard of uses it. Um, 15 cents per gigabyte, okay, in terms of storage. So if you pair those two together, uh, it just wipes out any need for Supabase. For me, if I was doing this like personally for one of my things, I would have used that. I did this for y'all on Supabase because that's what everybody uses. Okay. Now back to the builder. I'm gonna show y'all the AI agent real quick. So this is the coolest thing, and I don't know if I'm opening anything crazy random here. Okay. So right here, you essentially have y'all can all see this?
Yep.
Okay. So right here you have what's called the agent manager, okay? And what's cool about this is Google always seems to be first, even though like they may not market it well, I guess because they don't really have to talk about it. They got plenty of money, you know. So essentially what you're able to do here is you create new workspaces. The workspace is like this is a workspace. You open up the folders inside of here. Folder is a project, okay? And then right here, you can manage multiple projects running multiple agents in each one of them, okay? Um, Now, this was the step kind of before spawning sub agents really became a thing. But essentially, messing with this in here, you're able to control multiple workspaces and projects and like move things along there. Okay. Now, your limits is essentially like what you can manage and everything like that. So, I mean, like, take that with a grain of salt, like as much or as little as you'd like to. Okay. And this is this project right here. I try to keep as much as possible, or I'm going to open up in here, in one chat. And let me just skip right past my little, I know there's some keys in there. I guess I can, if I accidentally expose them, I'll delete them. But um, all the way through here, like we started all the way back here. Okay. Reason I did that, I know there's, you need to take into account the context window and everything like that. That applies in every system that you use. But I was just keeping an eye on quality and seeing if anything was being affected there. And I wanted to make it as simple to show you guys as possible. Um, and let me show the other two that I used to start this. Okay. I'm gonna jump out of place here, but when you open up this window, this essentially is like what you would jump into. So I'm gonna jump into my main project, which right here, Arc Prime. Let me open it up over here. I know it's gonna pop up.
Hey, David, we're running
Are we
short
coming
on
up on
time.
time?
Yeah, so I want to give everyone else a
Okay,
chance.
okay.
So, in a
Let
nutshell, anti-gravity. You're using anti-gravity because obviously it's a Google product. It sounds like it's a lot cheaper than using Cursor or even Claude Code for that matter. So this is the area the playground it plays in, right?
I wouldn't say necessarily cheaper because Ultra is 250 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the like the premium tier or whatever. But I did want to say, like, in terms of getting started, I started this one with my lowest account here, which is just my like the same exact workspace account that you all should have with Google. Um, and like that should be enough to get you started. Now, I know people and myself like using this like every day. So, um, the my favorite thing about this is that you can essentially leverage it to do all the building, and it comes with that normal interface that you would kind of have to set up like by bolting two tools together with like Claude Code.
So it's his own IDE plus his own built-in. So it's a cursor plus, your LLM built in.
Yeah, it's like an agent first cursor that it takes action first. You know what I'm saying? So like I could pull up one of the prompts that I put, and obviously I don't write these. I have, something writing this for me, but I can pull up one of the prompts here where it's asking me to do something, and I'm like, no, you do that. Like, go ahead and you got to steer it right back. You got to point it right back at itself. But it's like, well, I don't want to touch anything. Why don't you populate the data? Why don't you
Mhm.
create the mock data? Um,
Got it.
and I think the only thing that I needed to do was get the keys. Yeah. Pretty much that. Yeah.
Okay, you
And
said
then
you did a podcast with Quinton on this?
did what?
You did a podcast on this with Quinton?
We
On
did a podcast on OpenClaw
Oh,
recently. Yeah. So those should be coming out next, or those should be dropping like as soon as today. But yeah, if
okay.
if y'all want that, we can tag y'all in it, something like that when they'll start dropping. So
Okay.
definitely. All right, guys, I appreciate it. And y'all have any questions, feel free to let me know. And y'all can I'm on
There's there's one question here. Text prompting, is it creating the code and giving visuals as a result? So when you're prompting, is it generating a visual? You can see the screens and all that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you mean like does it
The
pop open like
visuals,
a
I was just gonna
browser?
say that's what it is. The visuals are powered by the app that it built, and so whenever you want to test it, it launches the app in a local environment. But it does most of that for you. It does that better. It does that for you better than like Cursor.
Yeah, so this is its own little Chrome instance. So I mean, it's a Google product. It has its own little Chrome instance. I think this was like the first one that did that. So like the other tools are, like modeling after not everything, but they're copying each other, right? But this is its own little instance. This one I pulled up was from my Comet browser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one is its own, like that it opened up. And the cool thing about this is it did start doing this before most other tools I know without like an outside MCP, was that it had its own browser to check its work and to look at the visual, which is really nice when you're doing this because otherwise you got to take screenshots and tell it, hey, fix this thing or fix this thing instead of it checking itself, including mobile, responsive mode and everything like that.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool, guys.
Appreciate it. Quinton, let's
Yes,
talk about
sir.
the world of OpenClaw.
Yeah, let's talk about OpenClaw. So, OpenClaw, I'm going to do a little bit of brief history with you guys. So, it started out as Claude bot, CLAWD bot, and it gained crazy popularity. It got like 100,000 stars on GitHub in like a couple days, which is very unheard of. And it got so popular, in fact, that Anthropic, the parent company of Claude, CLAUDE, reached out to the founder and said, "Hey, you can't use Claude bot as the name; it's too similar." So then they had to, at the last minute, change it. So he changed it to, I think, Moltbot was the change. And then in that instance of him changing it, a ton of people didn't know about the news, didn't know that it was something different. And crypto scammers got a hold of the X handle, they got a hold of the domain, they got a hold of everything that said anything about Claudebot, and they stole, I think, $12 million worth
Wow.
of crypto in a couple of days. So it was a crazy couple of days. And then to add to it, the founder was like, I don't like Moltbot, so I'm going to change it again to OpenClaw. So he put that on himself. But they've had three name changes, but now it seems that they're settled on OpenClaw. And what OpenClaw is at its core, it's an app. Okay, so the only difference with this app is that there's no one-click download like you see with a lot of web-based apps. They built everything open source and completely open source the entire repo rather than just providing like a DMG download file. So that was a big deal because a lot of the apps that you want to be able to implement that are open source that you really can't because they only distribute through what's called a DMG file. And if you're a Mac user, you've seen this, you click it, you click download, gives you a little DMG file, and then that DMG file asks you to drag it to applications, and then that converts it into an application. So that's a pre-packaged application. But what OpenClaw did was they put it in what's called a Docker container, and that means it doesn't matter what machine you have, it doesn't matter what operating system you're on. If you follow the instructions for this Docker, you can run it anywhere. So that brings us to today, where there's a lot of kind of discussion, concern, speculation around what are the different types of installation environments I can have my OpenClaw assistant be in, and what are the impacts of that. So to show that today, I've got two basic environments that you can install OpenClaw on, and I'll share some use cases that I've done with both, and that should hopefully give you an idea of one, what can OpenClaw do for you, and two, what kind of environment should I set it up in for my business. So, with that being said, we'll start with the less technical but also less capable version of it, which is the VPS hosting. So, VPS is really just fancy words for there's a server running on a cloud environment that you have access to, that you have reserved, and you pay for it monthly. So this is very common with Hostinger, DigitalOcean, Cloudflare, Google Cloud, AWS, like all of these environments, they have a VPS solution. And what a VPS does is it basically just gives you a dedicated little network, kind of like your Wi-Fi at home, but it gives it into one little box, which is your VPS, and that VPS can have a machine running on it. So all of that was very technical, but basically it means you don't have to do it on your local machine at home. You can completely isolate it in the cloud. So what that looks like is this. So I have my Hostinger Docker manager, and just so you guys know, I didn't pull this up, but I will show you. OpenClaw Hostinger. So Hostinger has a one-click AI assistant setup. So you can go straight to Hostinger after this call or during this call, and you can just click deploy. You just need to sign up. You can choose the lowest plan they have. It's like $9 a month. And then you can do like daily backups, and then boom, you immediately have an OpenClaw instance running. So you don't have to do any config or any setup right. Once you get that set up, in your Docker, in your hosting or Docker manager panel here, you'll see that there's an instance called OpenClaw dash whatever. So this is now your OpenClaw app that the same way it would be running on your local machine at home. It's also now it's running on a remote VPS. So to open that, you can see there's a gateway token here. You just copy that and then you click open, and then that will take you into your OpenClaw control UI. And again, if you're doing this on a local at home, it'll look exactly the same. This one is just on a remote VPS. Once you set that up, the first place you're going to be taken is going to be this chat environment. And this is where you basically, this is your gateway. And so this is a really important part that I always want people to kind of take a pause to understand what OpenClaw is. When I talk to this chat session, it does not exist completely independently. In the context of what I'm talking about with it right now, it's isolated. It has a session memory just like any other chat, just like any other chat app you would use, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever. The difference is when you are having a session with an agent, anything you tell it to do, it can do it across many sessions. So if you have a Discord session connected, for example, because one of the big reasons that OpenClaw is such a big deal is because out of the box, it comes with all of this pre-configuration for how to connect it to Discord, Slack, iMessage, WhatsApp, Telegram. Like there's a ton of channels that just out of the box, when you open it, it has the ability to set it up. And you can ask it, like, how would I set you up to chat with me in, let's say, Telegram? And this is what's such a big deal, is that it's actually a self-doctored program. So it has access to its own config files and its own docs. So this is one of the big things that really was an aha moment for me, is that whenever I'm confused about what I need to do, I can remember that OpenClaw is shipped with its own docs configured in the agent itself, in the default agent. And so if you ever want to know how to do anything with it, you can just simply ask it and it'll walk you through exactly what to do. And so you can follow these instructions, get it connected. Now you have it connected in Discord and you have it connected in the web. Those two sessions, even though they're completely isolated, they still share the same agent. Now you might be thinking, why is that a big deal? Why does that matter? Well, because your agents can have skills. And so these skills can be anything that's built in. So these are all the built-in ones. Apple reminders, Apple notes. A lot of this is not going to be relevant if you're not running it on a Mac OS, like on a Mac Mini. I'll talk about what that looks like in a little bit. But all of these are just directly out of the box. Like as you install it, it literally has all of these skills already incorporated. And all you got to do is either authenticate with it if it requires it, or just enable it and let your agent have access to it. So this is one of the big like value adds, the big power of having OpenClaw. Now, when you want to use skills that are not built in and shipped with it, you have workspace skills that can be brought in from the marketplace. So there's a OpenClaw dedicated marketplace called Claw Hub. And this Claw Hub, so I was just going to look up and show you meta ads, but just so you can see more of what it looks like, Claw Hub is just a marketplace for skills that a lot of people are using. So, if there's a skill that it doesn't come out of the box with, like Trello or Answer Overflow or CalDAV, you can now just simply have, if you have the Claw Hub skill enabled on your agent, which happens by default in most instances, you can actually have your OpenClaw agent go and bring in a skill, and it's basically just a folder of files that it now has an understanding of how to use it. So in my case, the biggest thing I wanted was I just want something that can really quickly go look at my ads that I'm running on Meta, run a full report, and give me some advice. And so to do that, in my main agent, I gave I imported this meta ads skill, which when you're on Claw Hub and you're importing a skill, that skill can actually have several skills with it. It can be like a kit, and that's what I ended up importing. But it can also just be a single skill. But so you can see it has the meta ad skill, the ad upload in case I wanted to upload something, the ad creative monitor, and the ad copy generator, and the budget optimizer. So with all of these skills, when I'm talking to my ads agent, I can ask it, hey, just go check my ads, my ad campaign. I'm trying to see if I can find the message I sent to it. But I can say, hey, go check my ad campaign. Yeah, so this is just me setting it up. I added my ad account ID. I had to create an app, but again, it walked me through how to do that. It showed me, where I need to go to be able to actually get the token from the Meta sandbox. Yeah, here, developers.facebook.com, create an app. And then it'll walk you through how to set up the skill itself. And then when I did have it review, it gave me a full breakdown, right? So it showed me like, okay, I've got full access. I can see all the ads now. Here's what I found, and then it said, here's your campaign. Here's how much you spent, your impressions, your click, and then it's saying, hey, this one's eating 84% of the budget. Meta's algorithm has picked its favorite, but it might not be the best one. So it's giving me like real world useful advice that I can set. And if I wanted this to be like a weekly cron job, all I got to do is set it up as a cron job, right? And to do that, I just have to tell the agent, hey, set a cron job every week to check the ads and make sure that the everything's in spec and flag anything that's not correct. So this is just one example of a skill that can be run on any OpenClaw instance, whether you're running it in the local or whether you're running it on VPS. Because the key difference here, and this is the other thing I was going to show, is that these are API calls, right? So this does not require a full browser with a Chrome session cookie and all the other stuff that Chrome does to check for bot usage. This doesn't matter with that. I don't need it to go to a browser. I just need it to go to the API, all right? So in this case, it's using the Meta API, the Meta Ads API. But as David was mentioning earlier, the Go High Level API is also very powerful, very flexible, and it can also be used in a similar manner. And so one other use case, which first, before I move on to that, does anybody have any other questions? I saw a couple things hop up in here. So your VPS and Mac Minis. No, my VPS and Mac Mini instances are not synced. I have them as separate agents intentionally. I just wanted to, it's more testing for me than anything. But I have them totally separated as different instances. So they're not synced. But I could, if I wanted to, I could set up like an SSH connection between my VPS instance and then my local instance. And then I could create agent-to-agent communication between them. It's a little technical, but I could do it if I really wanted to.
Hey, Quinton,
and on the cost,
the skills that you were showing that come out of the box that you can select, is there concern about selecting, I think that's what a lot of people are concerned with, I guess rogue skills, people,
right,
skills that can deplete or cause some chaos. Is there any concerns around those ones that come out of the box?
Out of the box, no. The ones that are out of the box, you can pretty much rely on because they're very minimal and they don't have a crazy amount of actions that they can do. They're really just they're basic connectors, really, is all they are. So they're not made to be like really extensive skill sets. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because the Claw Hub marketplace, just like any marketplace, if you guys remember any marketplace, the App Store, the iOS App Store, when it first came out, there were some crazy apps that got published that were malware, basically. They were just viruses and they were useless, right?
Yeah.
Eventually Apple caught up, they got regulated, and they only allowed certain apps. But in the beginning, it was the wild, wild west. This is the same thing with ClawHub marketplace as well. It is kind of the wild west. You can upload anything, and they have an automatic virus, protection scan that they do, which is good. You should definitely listen to it. But at the same time, it's very new, and so like this one, for example, it has the virus total says benign, so that means we're good. Like they've partnered with Virus Total. That's a company that OpenClaw has partnered with, and every single skill that goes through gets a report automatically generated for it. But then OpenClaw has their own. These do not align, as you can see. OpenClaw says it's suspicious with medium confidence. Virus Total says it's benign and it's totally fine. Right now, it's the Wild West. If you want to be on the bleeding edge, one, you're either going to have to take more risk or you're going to have to spend more time validating. And that's kind of what I've been having discussions around a lot lately is like people want to be able to just do one click and trust that it works. At the end of the day, that's not where we're at right now. If you want that, wait, hold off, give it 6 months, a year, and wait for there to be a more strict vetting process on the marketplace. But if you want to be on the bleeding edge and you want to take advantage of this technology now, you're going to have to spend some time going through the report itself, which is available right here. You can look at the entire virus total report. You can also look at why it says that it's suspicious. And a lot of this really is just semantics. And that's, again, what's unfortunate and they're going to have to fix. But it's like their skill.md didn't match what the actual skill files show, or, it's just like clerical issues. So in that instance, you don't have to worry too much about it being misused, but definitely use with caution. Because, and we talked about this in the last podcast we did, one of the safety executives at Meta decided to import the GOG skill, which is you can see it's right here. It's one of the most popular CLI tools for Google Workspace. It was one of the first skills on ClawHub. So that's why it has so many downloads. It's very popular. She installed it, connected it to her agent, enabled the skill, and told it to basically clean up any emails that are spam or duplicates or irrelevant or whatever. And it wiped out her whole inbox, right? Now, that's not necessarily OpenClaw's fault. The GOG skill didn't give a good enough report or have a good enough understanding in the skill files of what it means to clean it up. And something happened and it didn't listen. And then boom, it deleted her entire inbox. So those kinds of cases are going to happen for sure, especially with untested skills. And so, for some stuff that I don't really trust, I'll have it build its own skill. And that's what's really cool about OpenClaw is you can have it build its own skill. It will create the skill file and it can write the scripts that it needs, which like high level, that's how I did high level. So I did not import any kind of GHL skill from the marketplace just because I don't trust it. So instead, I described what I want to have happen, and I gave the endpoint URLs and some basic information from the docs, and I had it created skill internally, and then I tested it. And so it was a much slower process of getting that functionality to exist, but I knew it was much safer because I took a very staggered approach. So this is just kind of one of those moments in time right now where we are with technology where if you want to be on the bleeding edge, you're going to have to either invest time or you're going to have to be willing to risk getting pwned, as the OpenClaw founder said himself. So that's just kind of where we're at. So yeah,
what's the coolest use case you've been personally using?
I'll talk about that last because it's actually what I'm going to go over last. But it's basically been my my content intern. Like I just have it posting every day on its own profile, but then also on my business Facebook profile as well, and on LinkedIn. So I'm using it to actually generate some of that stuff. But I saw a couple questions on here after that. So the cost for the actions. So with OpenClaw, you can choose a model that you want to use. I know a lot of people are using Codex, and in Codex, I have to look at it again, but it's basically like if you're on the pro plan, like the $20 a month plan, you get a certain allocation for the number of tokens that you can use or something, and then you start paying for them after that. I am a developer by trade. I'm a software developer. My company is a software development company. So I write code a lot. So I was already paying for the $200 a month max plan on Claude Code, um, because I knew I was going to be paying out the wazoo for per token usage on this. And so my opinion is that that is the best way to get the highest accuracy, highest performance, lowest cost is generate a Claude Code setup token, which is different. It's you have to have the Claude Code CLI installed, and then it's a specific command that you run. But if you set that up, you pay $200 a month, and I have not gone over my limits yet, and I'm using the hell out of this thing. So if I'm not going over my limits, plus I'm still using my Claude Code subscription for writing code as well, it's a very high limit. It's like 100 times the normal limit, like the pro limit. So if you want to just not worry about, token limits or token costs, just pay the $200 a month and get a Claude Code subscription and Claude Code setup token. In terms of YouTube videos that are helpful, stand by. We're coming there. I don't have that set up just yet, but that's a really good idea for one that's really easy to do. So I'll do that probably tomorrow. And the marketplace skills cost, they don't cost anything. They're open source. The only thing that would cost anything is like I saw one that was basically like Claw Call, where it's like it automatically, yeah. So like it automatically connects Telnix and Deepgram, but then you also have to pay them. So like they have their own account ID that you got to put in. So it's just a lot of people trying to build wrappers. That's the only thing that you got to worry about paying for. But doing it natively yourself, it's free. Cool. Any other questions before I get into one more thing on the VPS and then the local?
Yeah, so this is when you purchase the hosting or whichever one you're using here. Out of the box, you get the whole interface, the terminal ready to go.
Right.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
a
you
lot
get
more functionality than I thought people were talking about in the past. So literally out of the box, you can do so much stuff.
exactly. So what can't you do is my next point, which I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's a great transition. What can you not do? So when you run an OpenClaw instance on a VPS on a virtual server, you are limited to what's called a headless browser. So a headless browser means that you're running a Chromium instance and then you're basically programmatically accessing the content and then you're trying to figure out what's in there from that. Now, this works for a lot of stuff. In our case, which I'll go ahead and show you, the case that we're using is whenever somebody books an appointment with our team in Go High Level, we have a cron job just checking for new appointments. And then whenever that appointment is booked, we use the information from the appointment form and then we do research and then we add that research as a note on the on the contact record itself. So what that looks like when it runs is something like this. So you can see they put their name, they put their website. In this case, they put LinkedIn. So this one was a little bit different, but it'll still kind of show you the same thing. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can find one that is a little more accurate. Yeah, it's like this guy here. So he put his actual website in here, and so with the actual VPS instance, I can still do this. Where once it finds that okay, we got a new appointment again, just using the Go High Level API, so not using anything on the browser. We're seeing, okay, there's a new appointment. I need to go do some research for this guy. Well, whenever somebody books an appointment with us, we require them to put their website. So we put his website. And what you can do is you can have a web fetch or a browser skill that allows your agent to actually go do a headless browser search for whatever website they put and then return all the information, including any other contact info, any other important people, their social media, and then it does a full assessment as well of, here are the talking points based on their website and everything that they entered in the form. Here's everything that you should talk about for them. So we have the talking points here. And this has been a huge help for our salespeople because when they're booked on calls back to back to back, a lot of times they don't have time to go do this research themselves. And this makes it, completely automated. So this has been one of the really popular, probably my favorite use case that we've been able to implement on the business side. And just one other resource for you guys so that you can actually see. I thought I had it open earlier. My whole browser literally crashed as soon as this call started. So I was like, while David was talking, I was like panicking, trying to get everything set back up. But Cloudflare, everybody here probably knows Cloudflare, right? So Cloudflare has decided they're not going to fight bots anymore. They're going to create tools for them. And so they came out with this new tool called Crawl. And it's an API endpoint, believe it or not, where Cloudflare has all of the sites indexed from the entire internet and all of the pages that they host themselves. And they've created a really easy endpoint for bots to be able to just say, hey, this is the website. I want you to go search it and then give me, the useful information. So now you get rid of all the style sheets and you get rid of all the, TXT SEO optimization files and all the BS that comes with a normal web crawl. It gets rid of all of it. And now you can just have a straight up web crawl. And so what you can do with this is whenever somebody books an appointment, you can use that endpoint to then say, okay, hey, go look them up, go look up their website. And then after you found everything that you need, please add all of the information to that contact record. Again, two APIs, the Go High Level API and then the Cloudflare Web Crawl API. All on a VPS. Don't have to do anything with a browser, fully headless, very powerful, very cheap as well, comparatively. So that's everything on the VPS. I just want to give a moment before I move on to local, and then I'll be done for any questions or any confusion or anything. It's possible to migrate a VPS version of OpenCore to a self-hosted. It is. You can migrate a VPS version of OpenClaw to self-hosted because everything is in a workspace. So you would have to export the Docker container that's running on the VPS. You just have to export that whole Docker environment. And then you just have to make sure that you have the same runtime on your machine. So like in this case, I think I'm running on Ubuntu. So I'd have to have a Ubuntu server on my local, which I have a Mac, so I don't. I have Linux because that's just what Mac comes from. But if you're running it on like a Linux server on a VPS and that's what you have at home, then yeah, you can transfer it. Because again, it's the same whether it's running on a VPS or on a local instance. The main difference is just what capabilities it has in terms of like machine native apps and machine native browser and stuff like that. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? Cool. So I'm going to talk about doing it on a local. So when you want to install it on a local machine, there's a lot more to consider. The easiest, safest way is to, if you have a Mac Mini, to create a new user profile on that Mac Mini, and then install. I do VS Code. You can do Cursor. You can do any kind of code editor, but then you can install it on your machine in that new environment. So even if it somehow gets hacked, it won't have access to your file system. Because when you have a Mac Mini, you have a file system for every account that's on the machine. And so if you have it on its own account, it can't access the files and data on the other one. So that's the first kind of major thing to do. And then besides that, if you want to get even more secure with it, you can do what's called sandboxing, where you can run like a Docker container on your machine. You have to have Docker installed for that. But if you want to run it on basically like a virtual sandbox where it can't really do anything, then that's what you would do. But I tried doing that, and I promise you, you are going to run out of use cases pretty quick because it's just very limiting. So you want to allow it to have full access to the profile that it has on your Mac, but it needs to have its own profile. Now with that, I installed it. There's a whole self guide. I'm not going to go through how to do that. If you want help with that, hit us up. We'll help you out. But the same thing that I showed with the VPS, where I have a web terminal and I can talk to it and all that stuff, same thing exists on my Mac Mini. The biggest difference is that when it goes to launch a Chrome instance, when it goes to launch a browser instance, it is going to launch an actual native full-headed browser instance on your machine. So with VPS, it can only do web crawling, it can only do headless browser information. The challenge with that is that you can't really have persistent session authentication. So like when you're logged into Facebook on your browser, if you ever go to a new browser, you have to log in again. If you're logged out of that browser for a while, if you're inactive on it, whatever, you get logged out and you have to re-authenticate with Facebook. So this is one of the big challenges and nuisance of using like a VPS is when you want it to do something like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or one of these platforms that has really strict bot checking, you're not really able to do it with headless because you have to constantly change out the session token because they constantly expire. So when you run it on a local machine, you're actually utilizing the native Chrome instance, which means your tokens last longer, they change out a lot less frequently, and the signals that you're sending when the browser operations are happening are much more consistent with human interaction on a browser than if you have a Chromium instance on a random remote IP address that's never been seen by Facebook before. It's going to be like, yo, WTF is this? But if you have a Mac Mini that has a standard IP address and you run Facebook and LinkedIn and everything on it on your own normally, and then now you set up a new profile for this bot, it's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is just another profile user on that same machine. I can be much less, restrictive about what it can do. So, with that being said, when I launched this and I had it set up, I basically told it, hey, I want to give you your own Google Workspace account. So then you're actually able to, it'll open up a browser and it will stop. And you, as the machine operator, you can go in and you can say, all right, I'm going to go to Google Workspace. I'm going to sign up a new account. I'll do two-factor authentication. I'll do all the bot checks. I'll do everything. And then once you're done, you could say, hey, OpenClaw, I've now given you a fully authenticated browser. Here's what I want you to do. And boom, it now has a fully authenticated persistent session browser instance that it never has to worry about rotating out the session cookies. It doesn't have to rotate out proxy URLs and all this shit. It doesn't have to do that. It just has a fully live browser instance the same way you do. So with that, you can imagine what I did. I gave it a Facebook profile. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe that's just me. But I was like, that's the first thing I want to do. I want to give it its own Facebook profile. So I would like you all to meet Mary Davids. Oh, sorry. I had her pulled up here a second ago. I would like you all to meet Mary Davids. This is our newest AI employee that has her own Facebook profile. She also has her own LinkedIn profile, and you'll notice she has 27 connections. She only has 3 Facebook connections, so that should show you just how difficult it is. But I also haven't had her send any friend requests on Facebook. I did have her max out the connection request on LinkedIn, so that's kind of the difference. But her job is basically to use the browser, the full Chrome browser that she has on my Mac Mini, go to X, formerly Twitter, look for technical stories that are interesting that people in my audience may not know, and then just share it. And so, like, this is one of the most recent ones she did. Perplexity just announced personal computer. She did this an hour ago. I didn't even know she did it an hour ago because it's on an automation. She does this twice a day. So she's just doing this for me in the background without even a thought. And she also does it on my Facebook page too, or on my on my professional page too. So like all of these posts for her, these are her. You can see it's the same one, but it's on a different page now. So now instead of me having to do it, she can do it. And I wish I was at my Mac Mini. I don't have a lot installed on my Mac Mini intentionally so that it is separate. So like I wouldn't be able to do Zoom on there anyway. But on my Mac Mini, I can I could have showed you the LinkedIn messaging, but like she can respond to LinkedIn messaging too. And I have a few of my friends message her on LinkedIn just to kind of see how she is. And she's just geared around appointment setting. She just says, hey, we'd be happy to help. Here's here's our link. So this is kind of one of the big differences of like why so many people are buying Mac Minis, and also iMessage. That's a big one. I can message her at any point. I always say her because I named her Mary. I've got my one that's connected to my local Mac Mini, also connected to Discord and my team. So I can have her iMessage people for me. So like one thing we did for a while was, hey, whenever we get a new lead, iMessage as me and just say, hey, I wanted to follow up with you. I saw you were interested. And there was no blue MSG. There was no, link, no, what's the other one? The big one. blue bubbles or whatever. Like there was none of that. It was just it just has a native iOS iMessage tool installed. I set up the rules for it, and then it's able to send for me. So those are the two like really big benefits that I see that are obvious and that actually matter for you. If you talk to other people, they're going to be like, "Well, you're not going to be able to run a local LLM, on your machine if you're not running a Mac Mini." It's like, okay, bro, like 90% of people don't care about running it on open L, a local LLM. They just want it to work. And so um, with the Mac Mini, you can do it the same way. You can still use Claude and all of that, but it has again full access to everything on your machine. And so, what a lot of people I've seen doing, which I want to do next, is you can connect it to a code editor. You can install the GitHub skill and connect it to a code editor, and then it's able to now you have an AI agent that, which by the way, she has her own email as well. So if I ever want to email her something, hey, can you find the notes from this last meeting? Hey, can you find out what's going on with this contact in the CRM, whatever, I can just email her and then she'll respond and email me back. So, um, yeah, with running it locally, the major benefit that you get really is this full browser instance. Plus, if you're doing it on a Mac Mini, you get the iMessage benefit as well. And then at the same time, it can also connect to like VS Code. Cursor can connect to a lot of your native code editors as well. And the reason that that's so powerful is because like I can have an email thread going with a client and they're complaining about something that's going on with our app. I can tag or forward it to my assistant, and then my assistant can now know where that code lives and go raise a PR for me before I even have to get into the code myself. So that's the big thing that I'll finish with, which is it's a gateway. OpenClaw, at the end of the day, it is a gateway. And that gateway makes it so that you can have multiple surfaces. So you can have Discord, Slack, Gmail, iMessage, whatever, WhatsApp. You can have all of these surfaces, but they all bleed into this one agent. And that one agent has skills configured and it understands when to run those skills and when not to. And that's why OpenClaw is such a big deal, is that it provided all of these new different interaction points. And that's why it got so popular so fast, is because he shipped it with WhatsApp and Telegram and Slack and Discord and iMessage and all this stuff. So that was just kind of the big revelation where it's like, hey, I have so many messaging channels that I can talk to this person, this agent with. Now all I got to do is make sure it understands when to use what skills and what it's allowed to do and what it's not allowed to do. So that's why I've been really preaching that OpenClaw is not just another chat AI. It's not just another LLM. It's a new orchestration layer. It's a level above all of the AI tools that we're seeing right now, and it's really it's really just a completely different mindset and a different frame of mind of how these tools can incorporate into your business, because now there's a lot more ownership that you can assign to this AI agent, rather than saying, okay, the ownership that this AI has is while I'm chatting with it. When I'm chatting with it, this AI has the ownership and capability to do whatever I tell it to do. But with OpenClaw, when you leave it, it still has agency. It still has responsibilities and it still has capabilities of what it can do. And so that's where it's a different, it's kind of a different mindset altogether. So I hope that made sense. I got a couple of questions I want to get to real quick. Definitely make sure we get the recording to Anthony. The max LinkedIn connections nowadays is 50 per week. I think that's what she hit. So she's on a free plan though. I'm about to transfer my Sales Navigator subscription to her. She's about to have my premium LinkedIn. So can you run it through a VM? Tara, I don't know if you were here during the VPS discussion part of it, but that's what a VM is. Like the VPS is a VM. It's just already hosted on a network. And so you don't have to do anything with like setting up SSH and like getting your local, browser to connect to it. Like the VPS gives you everything in a container basically. So that's the main benefit of it. With your Mac Mini version, that Mac Mini has to be connected and turned on 24/7, right? That is correct. And I just found it I didn't just find this out, but I was reminded of this, which is I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. The VPS will not lose internet, or is much, much less likely to lose internet and lose power. So if you have something that needs to run consistently all the time, every day without fail, VPS is always going to be more reliable than like my Mac Mini, which we had a tree go down yesterday, knock out a cable or something, and I lost internet for like half the day yesterday. While that was happening, my Mac Mini was offline. I didn't have any internet. It was useless, but my VPS was still online, so I was still able to have it do stuff. So yes, it is definitely one of those things you have to consider. And you have to do your own kind of cost benefit analysis of if the full browser plus the iMessage capability really makes enough sense for you to be wearing. What's your thoughts on using Claude Code? Apparently, you can replicate it. Um, I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, I still use Claude Code because I have a lot of chat history with it, and I like the CLI for writing code. That's just how my brain works. If that's not as important to you, then you could possibly have OpenClaw replace Claude Code. Um, but that's really a user preference, I think. I would say it definitely can replace like a lot of the Zapier, make.com, ChatGPT integrations that have been set up that are like very meticulous and have very fixed scope of when they can work. OpenClaw gives a lot of flexibility to the scope so that it can kind of figure out stuff as it goes. So I hope
Is
that
he
answers that.
asking if you can replace OpenClaw with Claude Code? Is it the opposite?
No, use it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Um, yeah, so using Claude Code to replace OpenClaw, um, you can do very close to it, especially now that they have released the scheduler and they have connectors. I would say it's not as easy out of the box to get set up, and you do lose the model agnostic side of it. So, if you don't mind being locked in with the Claude models, and really only being able to use those models for everything, then yeah, definitely like try to use Claude Code and if you prefer being in the CLI, um, then yeah, definitely like, try it out, see what you can. I always say like try both, see what the other one's missing, right? OpenClaw just comes out of the box very, very well designed and very easy to set up. I mean, relatively easy to set up. And so that's why I really like it. And it's also self-improving. Claude Code is more designed for editing files and really making commits. Like that's really what they have optimized it for. So yeah, it's kind of nuanced, but yeah, I mean, they're not totally unrelated and I wouldn't say they're 100% interchangeable, but yeah, for OpenClaw replacing Claude Code. Well, so what is the reliability and cost of VPS, with Hostinger? VPS is like, I think it's like $13 a month. I would have to double check, but it's less than 20. It's very cheap. Reliability, I mean, as long as the data center doesn't get bombed. I can't believe I can make that joke and it'd be relevant now. But yeah, as long as the data center doesn't get bombed, it's fine. It's on a virtual server. So yeah, the cost is minimal. The reliability is very, very high. So you usually don't have to worry too much about it. The only thing you're gonna have issues with is if OpenClaw, because all it's doing is it's running the same thing you would run on your machine, but it's running it on a virtual machine in a cloud server. So it's pulling directly from OpenClaw. But like, if you ever have any issues, you have full direct terminal access to the VPS itself. Like if you were doing terminal stuff on your machine. So at the end of the day, like if you're technical enough to understand how to modify the VPS itself and like run OpenClaw commands in the terminal, it's the same as having a local machine. The only difference again is just the iMessage functionality and then the full browser use.
All right. Thanks, Quinton. That's pretty insightful. Like, I learned quite a bit about OpenClaw. You simplified it enough that it's gonna be so easy for me to try it out. Like after this call, I can go click a few buttons, get into it now. Because I've just been kicking it down. Like, okay, I'll get to it eventually. I'll get to it eventually. Now it's
Yeah.
like, all right, you made it so simple. Like I feel like, you know what? I could spend about an hour just to get it all set up. Doesn't mean it's only gonna take me an hour. I get that, but
Right.
over a weekend, I can go down, open up that Pandora's box. Now I feel comfortable enough to do it. Perfect. I
My
really,
sales guy did. My sales guy did it in a weekend. Really, he had to call me once, and he was just confused on something. But he got it set it up on a V. No, on his Mac Mini. uh, in a weekend.
I'm intrigued enough that I want to, you know, create my own Facebook profile for my agent and the LinkedIn profile. You just open up my mind on the sales side. Like, all right, I'm gonna step
Yep.
out. Let someone else handle it now.
Yep,
Awesome.
exactly. And you can get so aggressive with it. So yeah, definitely let me know how that goes. Cause
I
and
will.
all of you let me know how it goes. If you guys end up playing with it this week, hit me up. I'll put my Facebook, LinkedIn, and email here in the chat while you move on to
We're gonna
Jeremy.
reach
But
out to your other
Yeah,
persona,
the
your
Mary
avatar,
Davids.
Mary David.
yeah, reach out to
We'll let
Mary
her
too,
know.
man. Hey, she'll get it to
That's
me.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. Jeremy, you're up.
Oh, buddy,
All
leave
right,
me
we'll
for
keep going.
last. I love it, brother. All right, so let's dig in here a little bit. These are a lot to follow, boys, and I appreciate it. Met some people here. It's nice to meet the rest of you. I am Jeremy Rice. I've been a web developer, website creator, interactive media, graphic designer since 2003. So I think today here I want to kind of go over a little bit of my history, a little bit of web history. I know if people where they're at in their journey and all of this, if they're just getting into it now. There's been a whole lot of things that have happened over the past 20 something years. And hopefully can inspire people to get out there and just start executing some stuff here. So, everyone can see my screen. Again, my name is Jeremy. I started this journey back in high school. Back in high school, they offered a class. It was at our vocational school that allowed you to pretty much take half your day, and it was called digital design. And it was really cool, like at 16 years old, to be messing around with those old Macs and just learning initial HTML, like early state Photoshop, all of those things, just the core basics of coding and graphic design, print work, and little stuff like that. Did some video stuff, shot music videos, did some stuff, Dragon Ball Z crap, all that back then. It was a whole nother world back there in the early 2000s, right? So that's what I learned a lot of it, which is a good base. Decided to go from there and go for a degree. Had some options, was going to either go to Full Sail, wound up picking Art Institute in Fort Lauderdale, prestigious school that went absolutely bankrupt. They are no longer around. Um, but it was pretty cool. I went through there, graduated by the age of 20. And there was a whole litany of like um, different software then that it's kind of funny that people might not remember, might remember, forgotten. There was the whole Macromedia versus Adobe. So you had Dreamweaver was a little different. You had Fireworks back then, which was not what exploded. It was actually the competitor to Photoshop. And before Adobe bought that through, all different stuff there. It was Captivate. I went through all of that, graduated, won best portfolio, which is kind of like the big award for each graduating class. Had a full-time job working for Ultimate Software, which is now UKG, which was a e-learning, well, payroll company, and I was in charge of a lot of e-learning stuff. Um, Great experience there, which kind of all my life, everything kind of works together to like it's just an evolution as is the internet and web development here. So from there, I started my own agencies, worked for other ones throughout the times. Been freelancing pretty much on and off throughout that since early 2000s. Um, Started with some WordPress stuff when that came around, back when it was truly just a blog, and had to modify those, getting in there with the PHP code and messing with that, creating custom sites for people from there. Worked for other agencies and then built absolute custom themes before there was the Elementor, there was Divi, and all those other theme builders, which is like here's that evolution of everything, right? WooCommerce, all of those ones. In that time frame too, actually got hired with the fire department. Still kept doing the stuff I was doing for websites on the side because every firefighter generally has a second job. Um, and there's time days off that I was able to still do all that stuff. So I've made hundreds of different WordPress sites over the time. Actually wound up creating software as a service for government agencies there that did e-learning, that did payroll management, that did narcotic management, truck checks, all different stuff there. That was something that grew and just kept evolving each time. And moving forward a little past then, we got in November when ChatGPT came out, right? That's when it was more launched to the public. And I met with a couple of buddies, and I'm like, man, I, this is nuts. This is where this world is evolving to, and I want to learn. I want to be ahead of that one, and really came with a couple buddies that we actually went to college together and have done a lot of projects over the years, and decided let's build our own little agency of that one and go from there. And that's kind of when I was introduced to Go High Level at that point. And we started an agency in Go High Level, and started doing some projects there, which was kind of neat to get introduced to that. From that point, we decided to spawn off another agency that was more niche based, on pest control, with some people that had worked in that industry and had helped build software for that industry very specifically. But there's a major gap in that we were trying to solve within Go High Level and bridging it with webhooks and certain information and data management more so within Go High Level. Um, Great system for that. It was a good CRM, a lot of functions. Kind of struggled at first with some of them trying to make some things, but luckily Go High Level would always be evolving. They were always changing stuff. And I was always tasked more so with the website building, the workflow automations, elements just like that. So let's move forward here now to this past December. Um, all a little bit at the end of last year, my partners were talking about the AI Unleashed, and we were going to send one of our developers there. There's three of us. My friend Tom, he was supposed to go, but he fell through and couldn't go. I'm like, okay. The other one was like, he's set to go. Nope, his wife's about to have a kid. So ironically, I was the last choice on it from our team, which is kind of comical. And I only found out that was Christmas that I was allowed to go from the team. Like, all right, Jeremy, you're in, and that was January 23rd or 24th, I think, when it hit. And I was lucky enough that my company had paid for the VIP to go, and man, that opened my eyes to so many things there. Um, because again, I've developed over years, done tons of projects. There's a lot of stuff I just didn't know just because I've been busy with the whole rest of my world. I own two businesses outside of that, a restaurant and a mobile bartending and catering company, aside from the fire department and these agencies. So my hands are kind of full with a lot of different things, but that also gives me a lot of knowledge in some of those and expertise in it to see where some of those strangle points are that technology can really help. And I like to try and integrate technology to make things more efficient. Um, so while I was there learning from it, talking with Haley, and a couple others, even before the vibe coding event went through, like I started off in Claude code and I was like, man, I could really use a way to track my tips for my employees. So I built a tip app in there. I was like, okay. And then liked it a little bit. That was more local, and then started messing around with Lovable specifically for my need, and made a whole nother one. And then like, well, if I'm doing that, why don't I make a reservation system? Because I hate Open Table for my restaurant, my steakhouse, and just went in on that right then. And by that night, I had a model that was functional enough that I got my team working on it and taking reservations specifically and sitting people through it. So, ironically enough, when I went up to showcase at the end of the convention there, what my project was that we were working on, it was live and functional. And I was actually adding a customer in as a reservation to what I call Simple Res. Um, Live right then. I just got a text message, hey, this person wants a reservation. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it right now. I'll show you how easy it is for me to put them in there. So, where we are now with this, right? So this agentic coding, utilization of AI and everything, it is meant to make our lives easier. What used to take web designers, graphic designers, weeks to set up projects, look for correct stock photography and or pay for a photographer to go through and get specific shots and everything, you can do in minutes now. You can absolutely rip through these things within minutes. Um, and this really empowers smaller businesses, and that's what I have. I have different smaller businesses, and I have a lot of friends that have small businesses. And these tools are crazy valuable to that. You can make a custom application, a custom software piece from Lovable or Claude Code. Perplexity now has their computer that I was messing with yesterday too, more so. So there's so many options now for these people to answer problems with custom solutions that never existed before. Not at the speed they do. So it's kind of neat to have that where you can compress timelines, you know what I mean, and just get rid of repetitive work. And that's where you have those LLMs where you can store your thoughts on it. Like, hey, this is what I always do. Remember this, and we're going to use it again later. So what I like to do with some of my stuff, and I think here's some practical elements of this one. When I take a project, let's say it's an older WordPress site, I want to rebuild that into a more simplified, lovable app/website that then integrates completely into Go High Level to utilize the CRM and all their functions that I can get from a private key, which just like our friend over there, Quinton and David talked about, Quinton more so how he basically, oh no, sorry, it was David, where he basically wanted to use all the functions of Go High Level without ever touching Go High Level. You can do that very easily within here and with minimal knowledge to an extent, but just what you want to execute, you can I feel it's so much easier to function in Go High Level, not using Go High Level, making my own custom calls. And I'll show a couple examples of that here after this. So what I love doing is creating specific prompts, right? Utilizing those prompts to then reduce build time and answer more of the questions, reduce credit usage, and really plan out my project. I like to plan out my projects pretty thoroughly before I implement them. So it's asking specific questions in whatever model you like to use. I prefer Perplexity on some stuff, Claude for others, ChatGPT for some graphic work. They each have their strong suits, and that's what you'll learn over using them over time and time and time. I have a huge memory within ChatGPT, and I have a big one now in Perplexity, more so for vibe coding. And you can cut your action time down to minutes. I had a project like I was leaving that convention there that I'd been working on a bunch of the website pages in Go High Level, trying to just function with that. I finished it within 30 minutes once I popped it into Lovable, taking a very specific prompt, asking it for specific elements, saying, hey, I want to take this URL, the website that was live and functional, mimic all the content, but also then create interactions and points for Go High Level to have call to actions, forms with memory so that if the customer clicks out of it, they can get right back into where they were, and also create a little bit of a back end dashboard for those users to interact with and have text messaging, drip campaigns, and everything in there, API connections. So it's not in Lovable, it's on the user side in a dashboard, but found ways to secure that stuff too. And that is a major concern that I've seen with people. And ironically, since all of this, I've kind of seen like ads on Instagram where it's like, oh, are you building a lovable project, but now it's not working? Like I've not had that happen. The only issue I had was this past Sunday when it was the free for all on Women's Day. That like luckily we were on a family vacation. My wife was cool enough to let me get after it and just work on some projects and like take a lot of my older websites and redo them to like drip out to them again. Like, hey, I redid your website if you're interested, and just like plowed through a ton of stuff and built 3 different apps that day and 15 websites on Sunday that were previous things that just would have taken me a long time before. I know how long it took me to make all those projects previously, and I did them in under 12 hours in one day there, which was just insane. Some of it from my phone, which is kind of wild. You can create it from your phone, not having to physically code stuff. That part's just wild to me. So what I like to think is every one of us here in this and anyone watching this, you have experience. You have experience. You are an expertise. You are a subject matter expert in something. And that makes you valuable to that. And that helps you create your project better than I ever could. You know intimate knowledge about that, just like I have in a pizza restaurant or the steakhouse and what a reservation system has. And that's what makes you stronger in developing these things and just utilizing those tools to execute it rapidly. So it might not be the perfect time for some of these things, but you have that knowledge, try it, build it, and keep letting it grow and get it to a point where you can deliver and launch, and then just keep evolving it from there. It's worth your time to do that. And I'll kind of dig into a couple projects here to kind of showcase some of the things like I was talking about here. This was one that I made immediately there. This is a reservation system that has direct connection from the website that was also created from Lovable, and people get to book a table potentially with my approval. And the tables have certain timeline restrictions. I can actually edit the full layout of the table in case we wanted to move stuff around for the dining room. So that layout is editable and savable for each day. But like every project I generally make, I try and think, how can I sell this or use it again, and how can I scale it? So each one of those elements has business information, logos, color schemes, hours of operation, that are editable. So this could be sold and used to somebody else, but also with roles and permissions to lock out certain functions for users and storage of data. So that one was really neat to work. And this is absolutely functional. We use all the time for our um, actual restaurant, and people are in there tonight actually about ready to get seated at 6 o'clock here. Another one I did was another one for tips, and this is, I called it tipped out, because every week I'd have to go through a Google Doc, all the pay, how much tips were for each person, and all finite details to things that I just put through here in a language model to create very specific rules to it, and then connections to my point of sale, which is Toast, which then just pulls in my sales from there and the tips, and I can easily track it right from there. But for catering, like this is where our leverage comes in. I created an AI recipe creator here that does cost analysis for it. And this is lovable. These are all things, content management system that this sends out invoices, does day of requests for events with like a whole checklist for users to use. It's kind of wild. Like use your brain and use your history to make what you need. My own personal one, which is what he showed earlier, the AI first responder, I'm calling it because of my history and being a paramedic and a field training officer, teaching people, doing e-learning. I've had a lot of history in teaching people how to do things. I'd love to teach people how to interact and make their small businesses functional with AI. Built a whole dashboard for my own website there, lead finder that searches, hey, what's some old websites, and created a drip campaign function that goes directly through Go High Level, sends out emails, and does all that. But the main one was my pest control one. I needed a way to take information from another software company that we get data from, extrapolate it, put it into a CA, we'll have the CSV where there's hundreds of entries, take it out, bring it in here through a renewal system that then allows them to put all the data in there and create an actual form for payment, which then automatically creates an invoice within Go High Level, sends text messages and tracks payments for every one of them that these guys would have to do hand by hand. And the system that they use currently doesn't do any of it. Now it automates directly from this custom tool into Go High Level. So like he was talking about, you can definitely, I feel it's stronger outside of Go High Level to get things done a little bit faster. Um, than in there. To me personally, it's just easier for me to rip through it. And another one I've been working on is a actual uh, dashboard and calendar system for you to use for social media that like you can create your own brand and company is another big. Most of my solutions are problems I have, and if they're problems I have, it's problems everybody has that we can all create. Social media, like creating posts, like they're talking about with Claw, OpenClaw and Claude Code and those ones. This just generates content based off of a specific business with verticals and allows image generation. I created it where it can actually go through and edit images as well, where you can go in and have safety zones for Instagram, TikTok, and different ones, load their logo in specifically and have it draggable, move, and really just create content that you can then push directly to the social media and like automate social media planning. Because I have a lot of business, I have a lot of things I'm busy with. It's always hard to focus on these things. So if I have ways to automate them, that's the way I go through it. Um, so that's a lot of what I've taken, and again, this is all just I had no clue on vibe coding. I'll be open and honest about it. Like if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know it. And I actually had zero clue about vibe coding until January 28th of this year. And from that point, I've gone through now and done, I want to say 40 plus projects, 6 different apps in just that time frame that are already launched and working. Um, and if I can do that, you guys can do it. It's just a matter of time and will and using your knowledge to get through those things. So make your MVP, let it evolve, grow with users, learn from users. That's the big thing I've learned from a lot of these tools is, listening to these clients of mine as they utilize it, what it needs to do. And that's where it keeps growing. Everything I've built, like those versions, it's now 10 times past that because I brought the customers into it and they gave some amazing ideas of what to do to make it better. Had I been waiting to always make it perfect, not going to happen. I'd still be waiting right now. So those are things that we all can do as developers. You guys have the tools. There's a community out there to help you with online and Facebook and Discords. Farrah's amazing with that one. He puts on things like this. He puts on courses. You have every tool at your disposal right now. And if you don't see the writing on the wall that this is the absolute future in development in all of it, whether you're using Lovable or any of those things, you're gonna get left behind. This is growing rapidly week by week, how many functions you can do. And it's something that we all need to be pushing forward with. So I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm just somebody that loves to learn. And I love to help people. Any questions on some of this stuff? Techniques that I use, techniques you use. What you got, guys? I'm looking at the chat here.
Jeremy, thank you so much. Just how your brain, I tell you all the time, I swear there are five of you walking around here somewhere, but just thank you for your generosity and
Oh,
sharing what you've done. I'd love to know a little bit about one of the things I'm thinking about is like having a base, kind of a shell of a template of a setup that I could
yes.
quickly. Can you talk a little bit about how you like get started with your project?
Absolutely. So, in that regard, I kind of touched on it very briefly before. In Perplexity, I have a base startup where it's specific requests and requirements I have for every project, whether it's a new build or a redesign. Am I taking all the content and imagery, or am I creating completely new stuff, or am I just enhancing those things? And from that, I have in there as well what I've typed for a full dashboard for an admin side for the users, um, whether it's the administrative side or customer side. Both of them, I have dashboards where they talk with each other and track conversions, set up drip campaigns. So I built that on one project. And when I was starting that one, I really had in mind the thought of reusing this over and over and over and over again to make my life easier to where I just pop in Perplexity and say, hey, utilize my core lovable master prompt, which is saved in my what do they call them there? The not the project. Give you the whole dig in there. So sorry, the spaces in my spaces there. From my spaces, I have one specifically for just AI generation of stuff. Um, here's the website. I want to utilize it for the logo, the color scheme, and tone of the website. And then let's walk through some functions. And I plan it out through Perplexity then. You can use Claude. Claude will do the same kind of thing. From there, I took a project within Lovable and I remix it. The majority of the time, you can just flat out remix things that have a lot of the same functions. If it's going to be a similar, let's say, blue collar site, or if it's a flat out WordPress, like simple website or not. So you can either remix, or with my base code, it really bypasses a waste of lovable credits, and creates a completely functional mini CMS that connects directly to um, lovable, or sorry, right into Go High Level using the private integration API keys, and has a dashboard for the users. And I can create a site like that in under 30 credits and have it done in under an hour now.
Wow, that's awesome.
So just always think like as you're doing something, could this be utilized again for another project? And if so, what are the tools and functions? Like all of them, to me, I don't want APIs stuck in the backside of Lovable. So those are elements I have where the actual consumer has the administrative rights to edit and utilize all of those tools there. So I love that one, Lethal. Great question. Any other questions, Harold? No? No questions? Well,
Questions. Thank you,
what you got
Jeremy.
there?
Really appreciate
Oh,
it.
appreciate it, brother. It's 5 o'clock somewhere now, and I did not sleep at all from the fire station last night, so it's time for a little pour or something.
All right, everyone. Thanks for everyone joining us today. Let me just stop the sharing.
Yep.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone joining us today. It was kind of an impromptu idea we had. I was chatting with one another about just showing how other people are using, how other operators in the space, how other folks are using it, because just by seeing how others are actually using it, it inspires you. I got a bunch of ideas from the call myself. I'm pretty sure others have had as well. I don't know where to start. Do I want to try, working with anti-gravity first? Do I want to do OpenClaw, or jump more into the other stuff? So I don't even know where I want to start yet. But for now, I think my initial starting point is OpenClaw is pretty new to me still in terms of usage. I already have a clear use case of what I want to achieve, just as a starting point. And I want to use it for outreach as well, the way you're using it for some other projects I have on the go, which I do not want to do at all. And there's a few things I hate doing with a passion. It's social media posts. I hate doing it. I know you got to do it, but I just hate doing it. I wish it was automated, just being taken care of. And generating blog content for the SEO, all that stuff. Those are things that always everyone knows you got to do it. I just hate doing it myself. So I can find a way of just offloading into my own AI avatar to manage it. I'd be super happy. And second, if I can set it up in a way I can get cold email outreaches going, cold DMs going as well for specific endeavors I have as well. You kind of open up my mind already. I already know what I want to do on LinkedIn, and I already have an objective. I already know who I want to target for some other projects I have. So I'm going to go down that path pretty soon as well. But just kind of quick update as well. I think in 2 weeks we're going to do another webinar, and with two other folks, we're going to go into more of the security side of everything related to just security. We're going to talk about HIPAA. We're going to talk about SOC. We're going to talk about a lot more compliance related topics as well. We have someone else we're going to be talking about related to how do you secure your Lovable app? How do you make sure when you go live with Lovable, what are all the things you got to be looking for? And one of those guests, this is actually for those who came to the AI Unleashed or know, Ruheen, her husband is, an ex-Amazon engineer. He's certified security expert. He launched a solution which scans all um, your projects and it'll tell you where all the exploits are. I ran it against all my projects, like, and had a moment. I'm like, okay, I gotta take a step back and go through and close all these security loopholes or gaps, because when people talk about Lovable is not secure, it's true, it's a fact. But you gotta go out of your way to close a lot of these gaps up. You can't just assume it's gonna be there. So we're gonna go over that, go into security consideration, not just Lovable, just in general about your vibe coding. We're all gonna vibe code. We all think it's great. We launch it, and when you actually go live, real customer data, and something goes wrong, then you're gonna go into panic mode. So we want to make sure you're aware of the limitations and what you need to do in terms of security audits, because you can't offload that to your vibe code and say, "Oh, I didn't know. It's not my fault. It's Lovable's fault." You're in the end, the human behind is going to get sued, not Lovable. So we all need to be cognizant about the security aspect. We're going to do something probably in 2 weeks. Um, I'm gonna put out a announcement in a few days. We're gonna put an announcement out. So if you're interested, join us again in the next 2 weeks, and we're gonna go over just security in related in general. And one of our other AI Unleashed alumni will be joining us as well to talk about that. I think he's on this. Are you on this webinar?
Cody?
Cody, are you on? Yeah, wait. Cody is on. Okay. Perfect. So Cody and Kunal will be joining us in two
Cody's
weeks.
in here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go over security in general. I think it's very important for us to cover. So once again, thank you very much for joining us. I'm gonna, after the call is done recording, I'm gonna upload to YouTube for anyone who wants to catch a recap. I will have to take a moment to find Quinton's portion where you shared customer data. I'm gonna have to blur that part out, or YouTube's gonna take the video down. They do it all the
Yeah,
time. So that
I
one moment, I'm
know.
like, no, it's real data. Like, okay.
I know.
So I'm gonna have to go in, blur that one portion out to make sure I can keep it live. And then I will, for those who are on the mailing list who would subscribe, I'm gonna send an email out, but also post it on my wall that you'll see the recap is ready to go.
Or how do I make sure I don't miss this in 2 weeks? Did the email go out? I may have missed it. I've been out with my dad who's been sick, but how do I make sure I catch the one in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I just posted generally in the different groups I have, and I just post on my wall as well, and I
Okay.
posted it in our WhatsApp channel, our group as well. So I just
Okay.
kind of spread it out there. I don't send emails out for these type of things in general, unless it's
Okay.
part of it. I don't want to add more noise, but I'll make sure I ping you and let you know when we post.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna lock down the date first.
Okay.
And once I lock down the date, I'm probably gonna do it later in the evening because it'll be easier for people. We're trying it out. We're trying to accommodate different schedules. Normally, I do it around 7 o'clock because we can catch everyone after work hours instead of during work hours, and it's a lot more comfortable timing wise. But I think we'll do 7 p.m. In 2 weeks again.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
See ya.
Cheers.